Hello, Blenders, and welcome to episode number 211 of Real Blend, podcast that learned the hard way that the casino always wins. My name is Sean O'Connell. I'm a little bit poor heading into this. As you can tell from my backdrop, I am not in my office. I'm in Las Vegas. Gabe, does that glare bad? I'll try to block it with my head. For CinemaCon 2022, which we're going to be discussing all the different panels and footage that's been shown so far. I'll be coming to you bearing news about DC and Marvel and Disney, and even some information to get you hyped for Olivia Wilde's new film, Don't Worry, Darling. So stay tuned. Let's dive right into the show. So much to get to. As you can see, Kevin McCarthy of Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. joining us as always. Hello, Kev.
Sean, Gabe, good to see you guys. And I'm actually, what's interesting about today's show is I'm going to just play curious person because I have so many questions about what you've seen at CinemaCon. For people who are listening to our show, CinemaCon is like this beautiful celebration of movies and movie theaters, right? And like where it's these studios are showing the theaters and the theater owners like the footage and what's going to come out. And to me, it's like even now it's more important than ever that this event takes place. And I think it's awesome that we're, especially some of the big titles that are coming out of there. And Sean's going to talk about all the stuff that he's seen and what's coming up. But it is like really, this is such an important event. And it's always something I wanted to go to.
I say to you every year that you should be at this.
I know,
it's
but I mean,
so in tune with you.
The problem is like it's in tune with me, but it's not in tune with like I work for a local TV station in DC, so they don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could angle it like where I talk to the actors or, hey, Kevin, I saw this footage. I mean, it actually could be advantageous if I pitched it the right way. I mean, especially with the stuff you're going to talk about today. Like that's all stuff I want to know about.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Well, as you can see, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, Jake Hamilton is going to be out of this week's episode. He's down with strained vocal cords, the poor boy. So we've Gabe Kovac sitting in the chair. Hi, Gabe. Welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here as always, but happy to be here in a bigger and better way.
Yeah, yes, man.
Thrilled to have you here. As mentioned, if you're listening to us on an audio feed and want to watch us, go to YouTube. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, watch the video component of this. Go to youtube.com/RealBlendPodcast. Of course, we're available all the different places you get your podcast needs met. And then we have a premium show. This week, we're going to be doing, what are we doing? No, we're not quite sure. That's up in the air.
Well, I can cover that now, actually. So this, at the end of the show, premium subs.
Oh, okay.
People who, yeah. There's a bit of an update. Not an incredibly exciting update, but an update. But I'll save it for the end of the show.
Sounds good. When you sign up for premium, not only do you get an additional show on Mondays and a newsletter from myself every other week, but you get an ad-free version of the show, which is the best. It's just more content from the guys, and who doesn't want that? So check the description for information on how and where you can go to sign up. We have a lot of news to get into this week before we even get to the CinemaCon panels and the footage that's being shown from it, including this bombshell that dropped. And I find this to be fairly interesting because we are recording this week's podcast on Wednesday, and I got out of the Disney panel this morning, but tonight is the Universal panel. And if they wanted to tease Fast X, they're going to have a hard time bringing out the director because Justin Lin has stepped away as the director of the 10th Fast and Furious film. But here's the thing, like directors leave projects all the time, but he's 1 week into filming. Like they just made a big deal the other day with Vin Diesel putting it on social media and revealing the title Fast X. And Justin Lin, due to what he's calling creative differences and having meetings with the creative team and the executive team behind that, they've mutually agreed to let him leave the project, but stay on board as a producer. So, Kev, I'm going to go to you because you are our resident Fast fan, unnecessarily.
Does that fandom have a nickname?
The Fasties? I have no idea. I don't know.
That's what I'm going to call them now.
Bottles of nitrous? What are they called?
I think Justin Lin has been a great... Oxides. I think that he's been a terrific addition to this franchise. Like when he's been behind the lens, it's been one of the better Fast and Furious. I like James Wan's version too, but Justin Lin seems to know what he's doing. So were you stunned that this happened?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this franchise has been through different directors, but Justin Lin really has 5 of the films. I mean, he in arguably the best of the films, which is Fast 5. Though I'm a huge Furious 7 fan, which was James Wan. But Justin Lin is to me synonymous with the Fast franchise because when you go back to Better Luck Tomorrow, and kind of like the whole concept of, and it's kind of a cool thing and cool story. And obviously the action in these films has been so special because Justin is such a phenomenal director when it comes to practical effects. I mean, when he had him on our show for Fast 9, I highly recommend finding the episode. Even a shot like in Fast 9 where the car is being magnetized through a building, that's done practically. I mean, they really launched this car through this building on this incredible gimbal setup they had. And he walked through it in the interview and all the different practical effects they used for the magnets and everything. And I only bring that up because the way he spoke about the way action was supposed to be done as a director was always something that I really admired, because these films are obviously extreme. There's definitely CG involved, but he's trying his hardest to give you as much of it in camera as possible. And for a director at that level on making films on that scale to still thinking about it as practically and as small as possible, if that makes sense. Right. Also, I mean, this exit worries me. As a fan of the franchise, in terms of the Fast movies, it worries me because what does that mean? Like, what's going on behind the scenes? And, The Rock isn't in these films anymore. And, like, you just wonder, you hear about the drama, and we're not going to speculate and point fingers, but I just think that it just worries me about what's going on behind the scenes, because these movies are supposed to be fun. Yeah. And for Justin to step away, obviously something big must have happened. And
if they, like you said, we can't really speculate on what we don't know, but if they were creative differences, truly creative differences over the story, you would think they would have come up way before they started filming.
100%. Yeah.
Don't they to that point though, again, like not trying to like speculate or point to any drama that we don't even know exists, but I feel like historically, isn't this a franchise that even at its scale, there's all these stories of like, oh yeah, the night before we kind of rewrote this action scene, or we kind of redid this. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if they came out and said like, yeah, after a week of us sort of doing what we kind of always do, which is retool it as we go in a big way. Like it historically, it just sounds like they do that a lot. I could see it more than, maybe we think they go in with a plan and they mostly execute it. It sounds like there's a lot of, it can be kind of fluid.
Yeah. And I just it
more than usual, of course.
It's interesting to me because at the end of the day, it's like the general public who's going to see Fast and Furious is like, they're not going to see Justin Lin's Fast and Furious. They're going to see the Fast and Furious franchise. It's weird because I don't want to compare it, but like Justin Lin leaving Fast franchise, like even though he's important to the action, there are a lot of action filmmakers who could come in and try and replicate it. I don't know if they'll do as good of a job, but like you see a gigantic filmmaker like Christopher Nolan leaving Oppenheimer or something like that. That would that takes away the actual.
I was going to say Oppenheimer just doesn't get made. Yeah.
Right. Right. And I'm just speaking completely hyperbolically because it's interesting to think about like if Spielberg stepped away from a project, who steps in for that person.
It's definitely the franchise is the
okay, but then let me ask you a question, Gabe.
But I don't think it'll be as good without Justin Lin. I really don't, and I want to say that I think as a fan, regardless of the general audience not knowing maybe who Justin Lin is, they do know who he is because they're enjoying his movies so much. You know what I mean? And I think that him stepping away is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a big shoe to fill, because I don't know that they're going to find somebody who's as passionate about these characters and the world as he is about it. And I just worry that it's going to end up in the wrong hands. It's just going to be, I don't know. We'll see.
So the names that you heard right off the bat were like David Leitch, who did Hobbs and Shaw, and F. Gary Gray was suggested. Gabe, do you think that like they should bring in a director who's familiar with the franchise, or
David would be great?
So here's what's interesting though. It depends on how long are they stopping filming. Like are they going to take a break? Because if you get someone, David Leitch is an interesting one because he's still a relatively young director as far as his career is concerned, and he's maybe not as
He crushed Hobbs and Shaw, though. He did a good job.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying he doesn't necessarily come with the gravitas of like, this has to be made my own. He could definitely come in, I think, where he's at and still kind of have that director for hire sense, especially since he's familiar with the franchise and sort of execute the plan that they have. And he kind of, he knows all the players, and I could see that working. But, F. Gary Gray or anyone that we would like raise an eyebrow to, I find it hard to believe that they would come on without having time to actually redo everything, to like come in and say like, well, if I'm going to do this, I have to want to do it. I have to, it has to make sense to me. Or do they just hire, someone we've never heard of or someone we're not as familiar with, someone who's more of a
like a second unit director or an AD or someone.
Does a second unit step up, or does someone who's more of a studio hire that like we wouldn't necessarily think? But like,
I'll tell you who it's going to be. I'm going on the record right now.
Okay.
Today, April 27th. Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel is directing.
I think it's Colin Trevorrow.
No, I swear to God, I'm not joking. You guys think I'm joking? Vin Diesel is going to step in and direct this movie because he's going to feel. And I agree with you. I don't think that he's necessarily qualified, but I think he's going to feel that he knows the franchise better than anybody else does.
Well, I think what we're tiptoeing around is... I can
already see the press tour. I had to step up to finish the saga of the family. I had to come up to the plate. We lost our director. I've been here since day one, ground zero. And I'm not making fun of Vin Diesel. I listen, you're talking to somebody who loves Dominic Toretto, but I could see that being like, Sean's 100% right. That PR of like, I stepped in, I know this world.
And you know what?
Does sound. I'm not
even saying that I wouldn't want to see Vin Diesel's version of a Fast and Furious movie. I kind of do want to.
I mean, it kind of feels like we've seen a lot of what we've seen is Vin Diesel's version of the Fast movie. Like with what the stories that we hear, it's a lot of, he does have a lot of, seems to or claims a lot of ownership about story. Even Justin Lin came out and said that me and Vin years ago would talk about the trajectory of where these films would go, and he's like in 10 and 11 or 10 and 10 and a half or whatever they're calling these. You talk about being surprised that they're actually going to see that happen. So like,
are there two more?
Two more.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Vin, what's interesting about Vin Diesel stepping in now, going back real fast, I think F. Gary Gray would be the better choice than David Leitch. And I say that because F. Gary Gray worked in this part of the world of Fast and Furious. Sure. And I think he'd be able to pick it up and understand it better because Leitch's was more on the I guess the sideline. Yeah.
Well, and Leitch apparently has another film that he's going to.
That's
right
the other thing is who's just happens to be free. It seems like a lot. Yeah. So I did want to say. I want to round off this segment, but that's complicated in the sense that one, I think the thing we're kind of tiptoeing around is like, is Vin Diesel the person that was the creative difference that he was running into? If he does have all this sort
because of previous drama that we've heard. Yeah.
Just like, he just, not that he seems difficult to work with. Who knows? I think it's kind of weird for us to assume anything like that. But like, we wonder if that's the case. And if it's his vision that's winning by him stepping down, then, maybe that makes sense. But like, it's still going to cost, hundreds of millions of dollars to make this. And like putting an actor who, to my knowledge, has never directed anything.
Oh, wait, hold on.
But definitely has not directed.
Did he direct a short film in this franchise?
He did.
But did he direct, I don't know. It's maybe it's a well-oiled machine where the second unit and everyone that shoots action can just run and gun with it, and they don't need, necessarily someone to be there at all times.
Sure.
Maybe it would work out. I just find it hard to believe. Who knows how that situation is. I just find it hard to believe that any studio is like, okay, Vin Diesel, here's several $100 million.
$200 million.
So Gabe, I think you're right. So Gabe uses the word well-oiled machine is the exact thing I was going to say. In my personal opinion, these films they've been made for so long that there probably are Justin Lin probably already did the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They already probably went into production rehearsals.
But did he? No, but here's my point.
I don't know. I'm just theorizing.
If they're changing the vision that he already agreed to for week one.
Oh no!
Did he? Like how much of that is changing?
I don't mean creatively in terms of like maybe different story directions. I'm talking about like the overall scale and production of like where the actors are going to be when we're shooting,
the stunts,
site locations, stunts, all that stuff. Like if you think about it, Vin Diesel would probably just step in and be guided. Do you know what I mean? Like he'd be like a guided filmmaker.
I think we've already gone too far speculating.
No, this is an interesting. I agree with Sean, and I'll tell you right now. Knowing Vin Diesel just through the press and kind of his love of the franchise. I think, Sean, I'm telling you, I could see it right now. Vin steps in to save the day.
I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back when that announcement gets made.
I won't be completely shocked, but I very much doubt it.
All right, let's move on to CinemaCon, which is being held in Las Vegas. As I mentioned, I've been here since Monday. We are recording this on Wednesday, and it goes through one more day. We're going to run through a couple of the cool movies that have been teased at the different panels, starting with Don't Worry, Darling, which is coming from Warner Brothers later this year. I want to say in September. It's likely going to be an awards
September
contender
23rd.
for them. Awesome. It is from Olivia Wilde, who she's following up Booksmart, and this is a completely different approach for her. I'm going to try to describe it without giving away too much, because it also feels like the less you know about this film, the better. It stars. It's a Florence Pugh vehicle, essentially, but it also stars Harry Styles, and Olivia Wilde herself is in it, and a couple other really big character actors.
You said.
Oh, Chris Pine. Chris Pine is also in it.
Captain Kirk is what I was going to say.
Captain Kirk, thank you. So it's set in
Captain Kirk.
Gemma Chan is in it.
Gemma Chan? Oh, wow. I didn't know she was in it.
So it didn't fully determine the period or the era that it takes place, but it looks like late 50s, 60s. And they look like they're being set up. So all of the actresses are playing wives of men who are going off to work on a mysterious project. You don't know what the project is. It almost has a feeling of like the atom bomb potentially, and they are responsible for keeping things running at home. But the more that Florence Pugh seems to investigate what's going on in this idyllic suburb, she begins to question not just the project that the men are going off to work on, but everything that's going on back home in the different homes. So it has a little bit of like a Stepford Wives feel to it, and then a lot of like just her questioning her psychology. Like, is she going mad, or is she being put through? But it has also too like and maybe it's Florence Pugh being involved in it, like an Ari Aster kind of feel to it of like, is there a cult happening? It has kind of a Rosemary's Baby kind of feel to it, and just looks like a big step up for Olivia Wilde into like genre storytelling. The imagery is really stark in terms of some of the things when Florence Pugh is beginning to question whether she's going mad or not. And then Chris Pine comes in, and he's essentially the executive in charge of this mysterious project. And when he comes in, you don't know if he's like the cult leader or how that's working out. Really fascinating approach, because it has this kind of symmetry that comes with those suburban layouts of the 1950s and 60s, which Olivia Wilde then leans into visually, and also the way that the employees are working in terms of the project and how mysterious it is. I didn't know what to expect from it. I didn't know that it was like a straight up thriller this way, but that's the tone that it's giving off. And Florence Pugh looks like she's off the charts good.
I want to shout out Matthew Libatique, who shot this film, who did like Pi and Requiem for a Dream. Probably one of the craziest years of cinematography is when he shot Stars Born and Venom in the same year. They both came out. But John Powell did the music for this. I'm all in. I loved Booksmart. I am. This is going to sound crazy because everyone's a fan of him, but I love Harry Styles. I think he's a brilliant artist. I think he's a great actor. And what I love about him so much is really like, if you listen to his records, his vinyls, music, his music videos, he's a very, very cinematic person. You can just tell and I love the way his music videos work. And I thought that Christopher Nolan did a great job with him in Dunkirk, and they did a really good job of not making the movie just about Harry Styles being in it. He was one of the characters in the crowd, but he downplayed it well. And when I saw this casting, Florence Pugh is honestly one of the best actors I have seen in my lifetime. Like just based on emotional range, she just is unbelievable to watch. And Midsommar is probably the awakening of that for me. But Olivia Wilde is one of my favorite, most exciting directors at this moment. And Booksmart was excellent. And I love the 50s style aspect of it. And I'm curious, like, what they're working on. It looks great. You saw a trailer, right? Yeah,
it's like a long trailer kind of.
Okay,
so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out soonish. Yeah, because it's September.
Did you get, I'm curious, just from your description, I've remained kind of unplugged from this because it does sound so intriguing. You mentioned like the secret project. Does it feel like you're going going to be kind of straight thriller with a weird governmental thing, or does it feel like it's going to go down like there's going to be a weird sci-fi thing? Like
there's going to be a weird sci-fi thing.
Weird sci-fi.
And
thing.
I can even tell you this. Well, that's dude, really funny that you say that, because I did speak to somebody who got to see this movie last week in its entirety, and the comparison they made is Get Out. That like the whole time you're watching it, what you think you're seeing is turned on its head like every couple of minutes. So
interesting.
And that's a little bit why I don't want to keep throwing out details about it, because I kind of want people to go into it.
That's as much as I wanted to know. Just from your description, that's where like the two branches my brain went on, like weird 100%. Sci-fi or just like, you know, Twilight Zone. You know, like
there's definitely some weird stuff going on.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so that like the Don't Worry Darling is either I think it's like, and again, it's the 50s and 60s, and it kind of leans into a little bit of the stereotypes of husbands and wives. And it's like that could be husbands coming home and telling their wife not to worry because everything's going to be fine.
Or it was also like the
role of the wife, you know, getting the home ready. And so that when the agitated husband comes home, they're like, don't worry, darling, everything's fine. You're back home safe here. And she's kind of talked about the fact that she really wants to lean into the dichotomy of both of those aspects.
She's an exciting filmmaker. I'm very excited about this. And I it's weird because like I think Harry Styles to me is the thing I'm the most interested in about aside from Olivia Wilde, just because I think he's an exciting actor. I think he's really gonna shine in this. I think listening
to Olivia Wilde talk about just how excited she was for this movie, like she described it as like her dream project and something she's been like excited to do for a super long time. So.
And Booksmart was excellent.
I think we all said, if I remember, I know I said it, and I think we all agreed or said it in some way. We really enjoyed Booksmart. We loved it to some degree, and every one of us left that going like, "Oh, I just can't wait to see what she's going to do next." Like you can tell, like this feels like someone who knocks out a first film and who has a lot more going on that they're going to be able to execute moving forward. So I'm excited to hear that it sounds like that's what's happening with this. So
okay, so from the intriguing sort of Oscar contenders to the DC panel, Warner Brothers, as part of their presentation, talked about there are 3 DC movies coming this year, and then 2 big ones coming next year. Now, one of them is the animated League of Super Pets. It looks cute. It's The Rock and Kevin Hart voicing 2 dogs, and essentially one of them is the pet of Superman, and it plays on a couple of DC tropes, and it looks totally cute.
I like Secret Life of Pets.
You know what? Now imagine they had superpowers.
Yeah, it reminds me very much of that, but like if they had like someone could run as fast as the Flash, or
and Kevin Hart is in that too.
Yes, he is in that one too. But in this one, he's voicing a dog and not a rabbit. So
okay,
yeah, but it looks cute. Okay, so before that, I'm sorry, they had news. Matt Reeves came out on stage, and again, huge advocate for the theatrical experience. This was a bit of a victory lap for him because he came out to The Batman doing $760 million, or the total that it's over at this point now. And then he confirmed that he is returning for The Batman 2. So, Gabe, you were asking me, like, what new information?
Did they give anything? Yeah.
I mean, I hate to burst your bubble, but, like, outside of him saying and Robert Pattinson are coming back. And it was
honestly, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, we know.
He didn't mention Kravitz coming back?
No, I don't think he did. I saw some people tweet that, so maybe he did. Maybe
did they mention a window? Like we plan to have this in a couple years, or
didn't mention dates? Didn't mention. He literally said like, "We will discuss this at some other CinemaCons in the future."
I'll give an anecdote while we're here, since there's not much to say about this. A friend of mine finally, it's on HBO Max now. And so I recommend watching it. But they were finally going to see it. They didn't go see it in theaters, and they messaged me and they were like, "You saw this, right? Is it good?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's going to be great." And then a couple of days later, I followed up and I was like, "Did you watch that?" And they go, "You know what? I meant to message you." He's like, "That's a really like dark movie, like darkly lit movie." Because I tried to watch it in the middle of the day. He's like, "I had to close all my blinds." He's like, "I still couldn't see." He's like, "So I have to wait until it's like
experience."
He's like, "I got to wait till it's like the middle of the night, and then I'll watch it." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, be warned. The theatrical experience, they fixed that for you.
Who was his cinematographer on that? Do we know?
The Batman?
On the Batman?
Oh, Greg Fraser.
Was it Greg Fraser?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He won the Oscar.
Don't you think he's thrilled to hear that some dude was watching it at home in the middle of the day with all of his windows open?
Well, to my friend's credit, they stopped and they said, "I'm gonna at least give it the respect of waiting until the sun's down." And
yeah, the other day I was watching Ozark, actually. And I was sitting in the area of my house, and it happened to be lit in a way where I could see a bit of my kitchen behind me.
Okay.
And I'm kidding you not, like I was in the middle of this scene and I was so in it that I saw a person start to walk, and I thought there was a person walking behind me, but it was literally just the reflection, but it was in the show itself.
Oh, that's funny.
But because of the light reflection, it made me think there was someone in my house. I actually turned around and almost got freaked out. It was, I mean, I know it's a sidetrack note, but that's what the lighting in a house can do to a shot in a movie if it's dark. Anyways.
Imagine if Matt Reeves is about to make his Dark Knight. And I am
Dark Knight.
I'm
What do you
very
mean by
excited
that?
for.
That was
like,
his Batman Begins.
meaning
and this-
quality?
Yeah, if now he's in the world and he's set it up. If now he can really swing for the fences and I thought he did a great job in the first one. So if
he
he's
did a
gonna
great job.
raise the bar, I can't wait to see what he has the potential to do. So
I do think a lot of people came around to how I felt about it ultimately, which was it was very good. I didn't think it was, to me personally, great overall. And I like your Batman Begins, Dark Knight. It's interesting because Batman Begins is arguably people will say is their favorite of the Batman trilogy, but like this was a very good movie that he made. What if the next one is his Dark Knight? What if it is his? And
more than anything, I'm just excited that he's staying with it. You know,
Me
that
too.
like it's his vision is going to continue developing this, because Warner Brothers, for we're being honest, has had a tendency to not support director visions and allow people to tell the types of stories that they want to tell all the time. It's funny, like James Wan is able to, and Patty Jenkins is able to, but then you hear of other directors who have horror stories. I'm not even talking about Snyder, but like other directors who have horror stories trying to get there. Oh, David Ayer would be another, someone who had his Suicide Squad sort of chopped up. So, okay, so the remaining films that played, I want to go to Black Adam because that one looked the most intriguing to me. The Rock obviously has been championing this one for a long time, says he's been working on the script off and on for about a decade and really sees this as his big franchise, which is, kind of crazy because he's got Jumanji and he's been part of the Fast and Furious franchise. Black Adam's interesting because it feels a little bit like Shazam. He has the powers of a god and wears the lightning bolt on his chest, but he's absolutely an anti-hero. They made a big deal of, they said his inspiration for this movie is Clint Eastwood's Dirty Harry. And like he's someone who does not mind killing people in order to seek the vengeance that he brings on. So, they make a big thing about they're going to introduce the members of the Justice Society of America. And it's people like Hawkman and Cyclone and a couple of the DC characters you might not be that familiar with. And they say point blank to him, Aldous Hodge, who plays Hawkman, says, superheroes don't kill people. And Dwayne Johnson's like, I do. And then he like punches this dude and the dude goes flying off into like the stratosphere. So,
yes. Wait, did I hear he catches a bomb?
Oh, dude. Yes. He's in the middle of a desert and a car pulls up and the people stop and they're terrified of him. They start to roll their windows up kind of thing. And then there's a tank that fires a missile and it's coming right at the truck and Dwayne Johnson just catches it. And he like looks at it and the dude in the car is like, he caught a bomb. And then it explodes and like a cloud of dust goes over everything. And then it comes back around and he's still just standing there like totally unfazed by anything.
It's kind of like a sequel to Fast 8 when he like doesn't he maneuver that missile on the ice?
Yes, he does.
With his bare hands. Yeah.
And, he just looks like a superhero like in his own right. So, you put leotards on him and he's essentially a character. But I am kind of fascinated that he's been shepherding this along. And of the DC films, that footage impressed me the most. So anything you guys want to know about Black Adam?
Lawrence Shear shot this, who shot Joker. Which is a good thing to bring up. He stayed in the DC universe. I'm excited about it. I do like that. It sounds a bit darker.
His big matchup is Superman, right? Like that's the big
Shazam. Like I can see that crossing over with that universe.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna get. Never mind. Yeah,
but as part of that trailer, I really did want the final shot to be like Superman showing up because that would.
But he's got it's got the Shazam aesthetic. So that makes sense.
It does. But even still, so like the next one that we saw was Shazam Fury of the Gods. And I liked the first Shazam, but it looked like it was done on a budget.
It's great.
Yeah. But it looked like it was done on a budget, right? Like it looks like it's a certain budget type of superhero.
Looked good to me. It was a little more grounded.
Good. Yeah. With this sequel, it feels like Shazam! Fury of the Gods is ramping up the budget. It looks like they're putting, now that they're confident in what they have. One of the elements of Shazam! Fury of the God that I found most intriguing is that, and I didn't even think about this, spoiler, if you haven't seen the first movie, but by the end of him, when his entire family turns into superpowered beings or members of the Shazam family, now the sequel, since that's been established, can play a lot more with going back and forth between the teenagers and superheroes.
Adam Brody.
So Brody's going to be there.
Guest on the show.
And the kid from It. What's his name? I'm blanking.
Finn Wolfhard.
He plays Freddy.
No,
that's Stranger Things.
Go ahead. I'll find him.
You look it up. He plays Freddy. He was Billy Batson's stepbrother in the film.
Finn is in It, by the way. Both of them.
Finn is in It. Yes, he is, definitely. And it looks really good. It looks a lot more confident. Zachary Levi looks a lot more confident in the role. The hook of this movie, again, which is very based in family, is that Billy Batson, who is an orphan and landed with his foster family, is now turning 18 and might be forced to move on from the family. And what is he going to do if he has to go out on his own? What's his name?
Jack Dylan Grazer.
Oh,
thank you very much.
Jack Dylan Grazer was in the first Shazam.
Yes,
that's what he's.
I thought you meant a new. I'm sorry. I could have told you it was Jack Dylan Grazer. I didn't realize that. I thought you meant it was a new person because Rachel Zegler's in this one too, and she wasn't in the last one.
And Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren is the main villain. So
that's cool.
And there's a weird bit too where Shazam is confronting Helen Mirren's character, who is also an ancient god, and she's like, I have far more experience at battle than you do. And Shazam's like, yeah, but I've seen all the Fast and Furious movies. And I was like, well, that's a funny joke. But like,
does that
she's
actually
in the
happen,
Fast
or
and
are you
Furious
making
movies.
this up?
No. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is a line in the trailer.
And didn't this trailer play right after the Justin Lin news broke?
Yeah, essentially, because we were waiting to go into the Warner Brothers panel before the Fast X movie. But I was like, if Shazam has seen all the Fast and Furious movies, wouldn't he recognize Helen Mirren?
Yeah, that's the whole boring, broken thing. Yeah, that's why
it's also kind of a lazy joke.
Because what does that even mean? I guess maybe it makes fun. Well, I guess I appreciate it because it makes fun of Fast and Furious for turning them into superheroes without calling them superheroes.
Oh, I guess so.
That's a good way to look at it, actually.
Yeah. Oh, that was so. This was one of the saddest lines for a movie that actually looks really good, which we're not going to get to, which is Baz Luhrmann's Elvis.
Oh, man.
Which looks great, and it looks like he's really reinventing.
Oh, what's his name is playing Elvis, right?
Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Yes,
and Tex, right? For people who have seen Hollywood, he's the literally one of the best scenes of Quentin's career with Brad Pitt, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. Baz Luhrmann was on stage, sort of selling that musical, and trying to pump up the way that he does movies and how it's everyone's coming to the theater for superheroes. And then he goes, when you think about it, Elvis really was the first superhero. Like,
Jesus.
Come on, Baz. Come on, don't.
It's a bit of a problematic superhero. So let's
might be. Maybe he was testing the waters. Like maybe that'll be our tagline, but just to see how it goes.
He's trying.
We don't need superheroes this summer.
Right. He's got a piece of paper. He just keeps throwing out one-liners, and he's like,
what do y'all think? I'm very excited about that film. I really, really, really loved his Great Gatsby. That's probably like one of the films of his but I know everyone knows he's a great director, but I just rewatched Gatsby like recently. I just think that's such a fabulous film. And like he's Moulin Rouge, everything, and Romeo and Juliet. I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen that in years.
Well, I want to, just because you brought up Gatsby, and then we'll get to Flash right after that. The way he's approaching Elvis's music is the way he said, when they had to do jazz in Gatsby, he knew he wanted to do something different with it. So he went to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z was like, okay, well, let's make jazz like hip hop. So that's what he's doing kind of with Elvis's songs. He's like, you'll know the songs and you'll hear them, but I'm making them different, like to fit my and really, he did it with Romeo and Juliet. He did it with Moulin Rouge. He takes songs and he sort of reinvents them, kind of thing. And I think that's what he's going to do with Elvis's music. So,
quick question: is Austin live singing and playing?
Yes.
Is it live or recorded?
Recorded. No. I think it's live in the moment. He's only doing the young Elvis because his voice fit that pattern perfectly. I don't know what they're doing for the later stages, because it does go through his full career. It does get into like Vegas Elvis eventually. So
Interesting.
And Tom Hanks is in it. Tom Hanks plays Colonel Tom Parker. So,
and this is not like uncommon. Like for like Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously, Rami didn't sing for the majority of it. But I mean, it is interesting that I didn't know about the switching of the voice. That's actually a piece of information that I'm fascinated now. I wonder how they're going to play with that.
We will find out. It's going to be in theater soon enough. The Flash. So The Flash showed some footage. This is Andy Muschietti's version of The Flash, a standalone film starring Ezra Miller. It kind of got punted into 2023. It's going to be June of 2023 now, and it was supposed to be November of this year. So they had a lot of footage shot for it because the movie was, I think they shot most of what they needed, and it's going through post-production now at this point.
Didn't they start shooting forever ago?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Forever ago. I feel like I remember you guys. I think I remember.
I interviewed him during it. Yeah.
Oh wait, I
thought you guys were in London when they were shooting at some point, weren't you?
We were in London for Birds of Prey. And we ran into Andy in the hotel we were staying in, and he was in London to start scouting locations.
I remember that. So that's why it
was a long time ago.
They were scouting. I guess that makes sense if they were scouting at that point.
So the thing about the Flash trailer, which I find really interesting, is that by now you guys probably know that it's going to showcase Michael Keaton's Batman, because they did confirm that it's going to be DC's first entrance into the DC multiverse. Which again, Spider-Man kind of beat them to the punch. Marvel sort of stole their thunder a little bit by doing that.
Sony,
and by going, Sony,
all people,
exactly,
right. Of all players.
By going through the multiverse, he's going to encounter Tim Burton level Michael Keaton Batman. The trailer was really heavy into Keaton and Batman. Like it was Ezra Miller kind of talking to somebody through an intercom, and you realized that the person he was talking to ends up being Bruce Wayne. But because of that, you saw like there was a shot of like a bookcase in a mansion that eventually started to like come apart like a puzzle, like a cube almost. And behind it was like 6 bat suits on mannequins. Right. So it was like a way for him. It's like the old 1960s Batman where he goes down the pole. But in this one, he's got like a bookcase that comes open in that way.
Did you see Michael Keaton at all?
At the very end, you see him in the bat suit with the cowl off, and that's when he delivers the line. Remember at the end of the first Flash trailer when Ezra just says like, "So, are you in?" And
we hear his voice or something, right?
Well, yeah. No, he walked into frame and his cowl was like from the back.
That's right. Yeah.
So in this one, Ezra says that again, and then Keaton goes, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." And
now, so that leads me to the question I was getting at, which is this Michael Keaton today, or is this or are they like de-aging Michael Keaton?
No, it's Michael Keaton now. It's a 70-year-old.
We're getting old man Bruce. I kind of love that.
We are, yes. And there was an action set piece
and he's
in the middle
of
it.
Suit. Oh.
Yeah. And he was on the motorcycle. The main action that was shown in the trailer was like a car chase, and it was cop cars and Batman on his motorcycle. And the Flash running through all the cars in the chase, and like cop cars are flipping over Batman on his cycle, and I'm sure it's a stuntman, but it's meant to be Keaton's.
So when Pattinson first, I think it was when Pattinson first got cast. I said this a long time ago, and I don't know if it was on this show or wherever, but if this leads us to Michael Keaton as Old Man Bruce Wayne, and we get a Batman Beyond adaptation, and he gets to play Old Man Bruce Wayne in that, where he's like teaching a young Batman.
Right.
I'll be happy with whatever this movie ends up being.
But do you know what that's going to be? I think that's going to be what Batgirl is.
I'm into it as long as it's that dynamic. I want that character dynamic of, and especially with it being Michael Keaton, Old Man Bruce teaching a pupil who has all this new gear and kind of has its own flavor, but is trying to learn to become Batman. I loved that show growing up because of that dynamic.
For sure. And because Keaton is definitely going to be in the Batgirl and he's playing Batman, and maybe I think that's an HBO Max series.
Right. I'll take it.
And you know who's directing that is Bilal and Adil, the guys who did Bad Boys for Life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bad Boys for Life. Those guys did a great job.
So I'm kind of excited to see what they do with that universe as well, too. I think they're directing the first 1 or 2 episodes of Ms. Marvel also when that comes out. So
really? Nice.
I'm a little bit excited to see what they do with that. Let's take a quick break for an ad so we can pay some bills, and we'll see you guys on the other side. And we are back, transitioning into one of my favorite subjects of all, and that's Spider-Man. As part of the Sony panel, they kicked off things on Monday, and I thought they were going to bring some stuff for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, especially when that movie was supposed to stick with its October date. But now it got moved back to summer of 2023, and part 2 is going to be in 2024. So more time for the co-directors to work on it, and the producers and story. Well, I guess it's story by Phil Lord, I think, because he had a story by in the first one too. And
wasn't he? He was. Didn't we? I think we talked about this with them. He was writing that while they were shooting
the after party.
The after party.
Yeah. So so Phil Lord and Chris Miller came out to discuss Spider-Verse, and they brought the first 15 minutes of the film. But if you have ever seen unfinished animation, it was
it wasn't even a finished 15 minutes.
A chunk of that. Yeah, like some of it was computer generated animation and looked pretty close, and some of it was hand drawn stuff that
That's
just
cool,
filled in.
I like that.
Oh, dude, it is very, very cool. Yeah, I thought it was really sick.
Was it scored? Did they have music on it and everything?
If it was, I'm sure it was just a temp track.
A temp. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's the finished stuff. But it was like it was the voices of oh God, who voices Gwen Stacy?
Moore.
No, who does Gwen Stacy?
Yeah.
Okay. Hawkeye, yes, exactly. Thank you. The new Hawkeye. Come on, what's her name?
You're asking me, the person who is the worst at names.
Are you talking about Haley Steinfeld?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Yes, Haley Steinfeld.
Okay.
She voices Gwen Stacy, or Spider-Gwen, in this movie. And so it's their vocal tracks. And so what we got to see was an action set piece that opens the movie. It's set on Gwen Stacy's universe. Her father is Captain Stacy, who is famous cop from the Spider-Man universe, and he is going to the Guggenheim Museum because there's a criminal there. It ends up becoming the Vulture. Gwen Stacy shows up. There's a big aerial battle between Gwen Stacy and the Vulture, and then the main character that we saw at the very end of Into the Spider-Verse is Miguel O'Hara, who's voiced by Oscar Isaac, Spider-Man 2099. He shows up through a portal. So he joins the battle and then kind of says to Spider-Gwen, I'm going through the multiverse and cleaning up your mess. And she's like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you mean. We fixed all that. And they were like, no, what you did with the Kingpin's Collider, which was that big machine that he used to open up the multiverse, created far more problems than you think. And now I got to sort of put all this stuff back together. So as part of the battle, we also saw Jessica Drew, who is Spider-Woman. And she's voiced by Issa Rae in the film. And Phil Lord and Chris Miller said the way that they kept teasing how big this movie is, they mentioned that the first movie had 40 characters, a total of 40 characters. These two movies combined have 240 characters. And currently, it takes place in 6 different universes. With the ability to potentially add one or two more before they're finished. So they did reveal that. So the new one that's coming out in 2023 is called Across the Spider-Verse, and then they changed the title of the second one to Beyond the Spider-Verse, which has some people speculating if there's going to be an aspect of them leaving the animated Spider-Verse and bringing in the live action.
It's a little corny, but like if they pull it off, it could be great.
Oh, that's awesome.
If we get some like
Space Jam.
Yeah. Or Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. Yes. I was going to say, when's the last time we got like a Roger Rabbit, really earnest Roger Rabbit take on that?
Yep.
Could be great.
I mean, it could be truly fantastic. So
wait. I say Space Jam because I was thinking it'd be more like you would have live action Spider-Mans and then the CG guys.
Oh, in the animated part?
In the same shot.
Oh, yeah, that's what I think. I think if it goes beyond the Spider-Verse,
right.
You'd have a mix of, and really, I mean, if you're going to bring the guys back for anything else, like that's the thing to bring them back for. No. Garfield and Tobey Maguire.
Those guys.
Those guys, I mean. Or even use it to set up a live action Miles Morales, because that's we should be going.
That's a great idea.
I'd be in on that. If Sony were to have their own live action Spider-Man, I love Garfield. Happy if it ends up being that. But a live action Miles Morales would be.
Well, because Garfield just said today, on the day that we're recording, like right before we started recording, he said he's going to take a long break from acting. Like he's taxed and he wants to
work
figure out who he is as a person. So
he's like, I'm going to take a break so I can work out and become Spider-Man.
Be ready for Beyond the Spider-Verse. All right. So speaking of working out and being physically fit for a movie, we've learned that Bad Bunny, who is a very popular rapper and also does a lot of stuff in the WWE, is going to be playing a character named El Muerto in one of the Spider-Man spin-off films for Sony Pictures. So that means that Sony has Kraven the Hunter coming with Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is filming right now.
That's cool.
They cast Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney in a Madam Web film. And now El Muerto is going to be the 2024 Sony Pictures one. And then they confirmed they're working on Venom 3. So those are the big...
We were talking
Spider-Man
a little bit
spin-offs.
about this. Who is El Muerto? And you mentioned that no one really knows, or that it's not really a big character.
Yeah, it's a terrific question because, like you said, no one really knows. Like, I think he's either appeared in 2 or 3 issues of the comics total. And he's just a luchador. Like, he's a wrestler with some additional powers. But it's a blank slate. Like, it really gives Sony the ability to do whatever they want to do with him.
Cool.
But like, it's not like he has...
see Bad Bunny this year in Bullet Train, David Lynch's movie.
Yeah. And I think, that's Kevin, I'm sure that's what happened. I think Sony probably saw him in that. And
is Bullet Train a Sony movie?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Makes sense.
You could see him in the trailer. He's fighting Brad Pitt when Brad Pitt's using the briefcase to sort of block off his knife. That's Bad Bunny. So I guarantee they saw something in him in that and then decided to give him his pick of characters. So that's coming in 2024. And that was Sony. So that was Sony showed a big chunk of Bullet Train, which is coming this summer. Looks fantastic. Looks like a Guy Ritchie film, but through David Leitch's lens, which, I mean, if that doesn't get you excited.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah,
is David Leitch in post on that right now?
He must be.
Yeah. So then he's not doing it.
It's coming out in July. Yeah, he's definitely not.
Well, I guess he could July.
No.
Anyway.
All right. And then today, this morning, was the Disney panel, which had the first 20 minutes of Doctor Strange, which I can't give you any details of, but I can just react to.
Coming out next week.
Here's 2 things that you are going to be very, very excited to hear.
He's a medical doctor and he's weird.
That's it. Done. We're moving on.
So strange.
It has Sam Raimi's fingerprints all over it.
Nice.
It looks like it.
Oh my God. It felt like, because the chunk of the action that we saw in the footage that was shown is the stuff that you can see in the trailer where they're fighting that eyeball creature, the one that throws the bus at them. So it's set in New York. He's essentially attending Rachel McAdams' character, Christine. He's attending her wedding. And this creature invades New York and he has to sort of hop into action. And it felt like New York in the 3 Spider-Man films that Raimi directed. It felt real. Listen, I love No Way Home a ton. I love it, right? But I'll admit that a lot of it felt like kind of green screeny or shot on a stage, maybe for COVID, when it had to film, or maybe for secrecy. This felt like Raimi was in the streets of New York City, like filming Benedict Cumberbatch running around with Benedict Wong and fighting a creature. So it looked pretty sick.
I mean, I'm just the shots alone in the trailer, like those like famous like Raimi. I don't know. I'll never forget when I was a kid and I saw the Evil Dead for the first time, and just the way he used camera as a POV and kind of going in and out of the cabin or whatever. I saw shots in the Doctor Strange 2 trailer that reminded me of Evil Dead. And for him to like take that leap into a major, I mean, obviously he already has with the first 3 Spider-Man films, but you could tell that filmmaker is still there. Very much so. Oh,
dude, 100%. If anything, he's energized, by being away from it for a while and then coming back. I know he said in some interviews, like, he wanted to prove to himself that he could do a superhero movie now. And it feels like just in the 20 minutes that we saw that he's pulling out all the stops.
Also, it's important to note, like, with Sam Raimi, for example, like a lot of these Marvel films, one of the biggest complaints I have sometimes is you can't feel the director's voice. Like I from what I've seen and what you're saying, it sounds like this is clearly a Sam Raimi film, and like it's not holding back. It's like I just don't. Sometimes a filmmaker's vision or voice gets lost in the gigantic element of Marvel, and I'm just glad to hear that it's coming through visually.
I'm telling you, in the opening minutes, you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a Sam Raimi film." You're gonna know it right off the bat. I'm telling you, dude.
Did Bill Pope shoot this? Because Bill Pope shot. I know we have to go. But Bill Pope shot the other Spideys, right? Or
while you're looking that up, I'm gonna transition over to Lightyear and then tell me the answer when you get it. I didn't understand what Lightyear was, and now I get it. Do you guys know the premise behind Lightyear?
It's the movie that the toy is based on, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They say they open it up with title cards that essentially say, in 1995, Andy bought a Buzz Lightyear toy after he saw this movie. After he saw a movie that he loves, this is that movie, right? So it'd be like Star Wars,
which is awesome,
essentially, for us.
Yeah.
So, but that set up a premise to me of like, okay, well, if Andy loves this movie, like this movie has to show us, it has to tell me why he loves it, right? It has to be really, really good. It can't just be Toy Story references, because this has to be a movie that stood on its own, and Andy loved the way that we all love Star Wars. And I'm telling you, after watching the first 30 minutes of it, I totally get why Andy would love this movie. It's just action-packed sci-fi. With it doesn't treat the Buzz Lightyear character like Tim Allen plays him as a little bit of like a exaggerated, almost to the point of him being the joke kind of thing. Whereas Chris Evans' character is just a straight up Indiana Jones type sci-fi hero. And there's an element that adds some tragedy to the story that I do not want to reveal. But what I want to say is it gave the premise and the concept of the movie way more heart than I thought going into it. There's a hook somewhere in the middle of this Lightyear stuff.
I want to say that was in the most recent trailer, what you're discussing, but we don't have to talk about it because what I know from the trailer was like I was like, oh, they could have left that out.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I didn't see it, so maybe
it's what happens to him that then seems like it's gonna the way the rest of the story is gonna unfold. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yes, and I did not know. I didn't know that was gonna. I didn't know that
either, but it is in the most recent trailer, which
that's interesting.
But we can stay off of it because it does feel like that would be a great reveal.
Okay, I will not say anything more about that. But I will say that I love the animation. I thought the animation looked fantastic. It has kind of that Art Deco 60s feel to it, especially when they're out in space. And it looks like it's gonna be a ton of fun. I was pretty skeptical about this. I just felt like, why do we need this? Why are you showing me the movie that Andy loved? I don't necessarily care all that much, but it ended up becoming a great hook, and I'm kind of all in on it. So, and then the Disney panel today concluded with our first look at James Cameron's Avatar 2.
Wow.
Heading back to Pandora. It was a teaser trailer, so very short. And I want to let everybody know who's listening to it right now. It is going to be available exclusively in theaters. Starting on May 6th. So if you go see Doctor Strange, it's likely going to be attached. Yeah, the teaser trailer will be. And then it'll be online a week after. And again, this is Cameron just, God bless him, promoting the theatrical experience, getting you into a theater.
And they're re-releasing the first Avatar, right? At the end of the year.
They will in September. I want to say September 23rd.
How much room does it have? Or wait, did it retake the lead?
It did. When it opened in China. Yeah. And so it'll just increase the lead, I guess, at that point.
The re-release in September is remastered and remixed, and it's I don't know. Did they say if it's going to be in 3D?
I think it will be. They didn't say, but I assume it will be.
Okay. Yeah, I assume you'd want to. Although I don't know. I mean, does that technology change enough? I don't know.
Here's my take on the footage that was shown. I was really hoping to see like something mind-blowing that made me feel like, oh, all right. But it looked like Avatar. It still looks like the Na'vi, and it still looks like Pandora. And, the 3D looked okay. It looked good. I'm not going to say that it wasn't, but it wasn't. And listen, there's so many factors that play into this. We were in the Colosseum, at Caesar's Palace. So it's kind of big, and I'm way up in the balcony. So who knows how it plays? It didn't feel as immersive. It had a dimension to it. And I will say that there's a lot more. So the subtitle of this is Avatar: The Way of Water.
The Way of the Water, or what?
The Way of the Water, maybe.
I don't know. I thought it was okay.
I'll look.
Okay. There are a lot of scenes that take place underneath the water, and I know that they're putting a lot of attention into perfecting that, and that did look incredible. Like there is some stuff with Jake holding on to the fin of a whale as it's swimming like through water, and it looked it really did look incredible. But it still just looked like Avatar, so I don't really know.
It is the Way of Water, Avatar.
The Way of Water. Okay.
December 16th.
Yeah, and so this is the film where I believe James Cameron cracked the code on how to make underwater performance capture, like work in a way, right? And I asked Zoe Saldana about that, for Adam Project, and obviously she's in the movie, so she said it was, I mean, incredible. And I felt like she was being genuine, but I just wondered like what that looked like. You said that
it looks. It's hard to describe, but it really does look like people are acting underwater. You know what's interesting? James Wan came up on stage to talk a bit about Aquaman, and he said one of the differences in technology between the first Aquaman and this new one is that the way that they're doing it is almost performance capture. He said he has 100 small cameras that are pointing at the performer and capturing their performance and then projecting it into a 3D image. So he's getting like every ounce of their performance. Listen, till I see it.
I'm skeptical. I saw that too, and he was talking about it in reference to like wire work and things. Yeah. Which is like, I'm curious to see how that translates. But like if it's...
The camera's actually underwater though. That's the difference.
Sure. Is he really? Is he shooting it in water?
That's what that's the entire innovation of what 2 is going to be, in my opinion, is like he figured out a way, from what I understand, and I could be wrong on this, to actually capture actors' performances underwater so they could make them digital characters that they're going to be. But apparently this had not been perfected prior to now, but I don't know a ton about it. I just know that that's the thing he was working on really hard.
I don't doubt it. But here's the thing. They were talking about heavily that it's going to be the latest innovations in 3D, in high frame rates, like all of these different things. So I really anticipated when I saw the footage, I was gonna be like, this is going to look so different.
Did it seem faster? Like, did it seem like it was 48 frames or maybe 35? I mean, normally we're 24.
It didn't.
I don't like that. That's good though. I don't like the faster frames. The faster frames look like soap operas to me. So
depends on how fast you go. Like 48, you could see it. I wonder if maybe he'll play in the 30s somewhere, because if he's playing with frame rates, I mean, that's the whole thing about Avatar, right? I mean, the first film, like we all know famously that he spent all these years building the tech, and the script just didn't feel at all worth it in terms of that time period. But the cameras that they created, I mean, the 3D in Avatar, I still think the greatest 3D I've ever seen is Hugo. And that's Robert Richardson. It's a whole different game. But I'm what you're saying about the 3D is bothering me, because that's what I'm hoping for. I was like, okay, it's been 12 years, right? And I would imagine that Pandora is going to look even more insanely immersive, because I didn't love the first Avatar. So I'm here to give James Cameron all the chances he wants, because he made Terminator 2.
I do think if it's you know, the conceit of it is that the majority of it, or a chunk of it, or a lot of it is underwater.
Right.
From what I know of the first Avatar, I feel like it's gonna, you know, Sean, you mentioned you're up in a balcony and stuff. In a better setup. Right. I feel like it could be really great, because the best parts of Avatar is when there's a lot in the foreground. Like there's a lot that's like moving by your face. That was super immersive. So I feel like setting it under the water means that anything can be at any depth. Bubbles from you.
And,
so
fish could swing by and give you depth of field.
Stuff that's you know, not distracting, but like enough to like make you feel like you're in the space. Which Avatar, the first Avatar, had moments like that. Like whenever the tree was burning and the ash was falling. Like I remember that feeling like I was enveloped in that scene.
Another moment like that, Gabe, was like when Stephen Lang, he had this mirror in the cockpit of like the area where he was fighting. Sure. And there was something about the 3D that with the mirror that I always found fascinating. Like it really gave it some strange depth that I didn't think it would. But it's like these little tools, like Gabe is saying, you can put in place to give you some form of depth of field and understand that it's a 3D space. That's why I thought Hugo was so brilliant, because that opening shot into the train station, it's a different director and different cinematographer. But like when you do 3D right, it can work. It's just most filmmakers don't do it right. That's the thing.
One aspect I want to bring up about the Avatar sequels that they revealed today, which I did not know, is they said each of them is going to be a standalone story. That's cool. They will each come to a conclusion. And they said when you see all 5 of them, they will contribute to a saga, but they're not interwoven or connected, or you're not going to get to the end of Avatar 3 and have a cliffhanger and have to wait. And I kind of wonder if that gives them the ability to stop if people aren't going to them. I don't know. That was one of the first thoughts I had.
How many of them have they shot so far?
That I don't know.
They've shot 4.
Have they shot all 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Pretty sure. I could be wrong.
If it's shot at that point, it's like, I mean, post is a lot, but like,
yeah,
you're in.
Well, post on those movies is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything, but
So that was interesting. And that's going to come out in December. Kev, I got to go back to Lightyear because I forgot to tell you one important thing. Yeah. They announced that Lightyear is going to be the first animated feature to have aspect ratio shifts.
Yep. So that one is jumping to 1/4. So this is amazing. So Lightyear is actually going to 1/4:3, which is insane. Like, I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this, which is really cool. And for people listening, with 1/4:3 is when you jump up to like that full blown, full screen square IMAX. And
they animated in IMAX too. Did you hear that, Kev? They animated for IMAX, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna literally jump up, and I don't know what scenes they're gonna use to do that with, but they can't put this Pixar movie. Right.
Disney Plus.
For anybody out there listening, if you really want to understand like what that means, go listen to our Denis Villeneuve interview for Dune, because he explains like the narrative reasoning why he would jump ratios for an action scene. And I think they were really punctual when I saw Dune that way. And Lightyear, that's really cool that an animated film is going to play with that a bit. Who is the director of Lightyear? Who are the filmmakers?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember the gentleman's name. It's the Pixar model of like, he was like a character animator or something like that, and he had worked on like story, I think, within Toy Story, and this is his first.
Angus MacLane.
Angus MacLane. This is his first feature. I think he did one short recently, but that Pixar model of like, they work in a department at Pixar, they work their way up, and then they tap somebody to direct internally.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I'm just fascinated that they're going to play with that 1/4:3 aspect in an animated film. Like,
as soon as I heard that, I knew you'd be geeked out about that.
Yeah, because I had read somewhere they were doing that, but I didn't know that it was a confirmed. But yeah, they're definitely. Yeah. And also, well, now here's the thing: is it one? Now I don't want to get too much in minutia, but it could be 1:9:0 as well, which is another IMAX ratio, which is the general one that we see like in the AMCs. So but I did hear somewhere it could be 1/4:3. I hope I'm not wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it might jump full.
I believe they were touting it as full IMAX.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll find out.
Full IMAX could mean, but it could be 1:9:0 or 1/4:3. If it's 1/4:3, that's like Nolan style. That's why it's awesome.
And speaking of Nolan, what do I have left to see? The Universal panel is going to happen right after we finish this. I don't know if they're going to show any bit of Oppenheimer. Like,
no way.
Everything we've seen are just like stolen set photos, right? Like nothing's officially been released, right?
One official shot of Cillian Murphy. Right. That was like a photo release. Probably not a scene. It's probably just a promotional image.
Is one of you two still reading that book?
I
still haven't gotten it yet. It's still back ordered.
Kev, are you reading it?
Yeah, I'm in it. I'm not far at all. It is. Okay. But I've also been like, I've been watching so much Big Bang Theory and Ozark that I haven't had time, but that book is a monster. And I'm like, what's really weird is, and Sean, you know this, there's so many times in your life where you feel like things are speaking to you coincidentally. Oh, yeah. And Sean and I've had this discussion before, but in a weird coincidence, I'm watching Big Bang Theory right now because Jake's gave me that as a punishment for the Oscars. And I've continued going on season 5. There have been at least 10 Oppenheimer references in the show.
That's funny.
So I'm like sitting here watching this, and every time like we're in the middle of they're filming Oppenheimer, I have the Oppenheimer book back here. I'm like, this just seems weird. Those little, I know it's
the universe
weird.
Is talking to you.
Yes. Like someone's saying and I've honestly, to be honest with you, I've never, and the last thing I'll say about Oppenheimer, then we can move on because you're going to the panel. Hopefully they'll mention something there, maybe show you some of if you see some 70mm black and white footage, IMAX footage, it's be amazing. But one of the things that's interesting about this Oppenheimer story, though, is I'm so fascinated to know what happened and how the person behind this, because he's so synonymous with the bomb. Yeah. And that is all I know about Oppenheimer. The historical aspect of it and kind of what happened to him and what he did. But I'm so fascinated to learn about this through a deep dive. I'm just wondering what's going to be in IMAX. Are we going to see explosions and stuff? I have no idea.
Well, it was really interesting. I did get to read like a sample of the book. It's still on back order, and I want to read the physical.
It's like book. A British publisher. It came from like,
I don't know, but from what I've read, what's really interesting, and I didn't know, was and what it seems like a lot of the book it covers, and I think that is sort of ripe for Nolan to cover, is that he is sort of the premier engineer physicist behind the atom bomb, but he then spent the rest of his life sort of fighting it. Like he spent the rest of his life like trying to get governments and our government to put sort of rules and things in place to mitigate the use of them and like sort of warning like, hey, this is like a lot of power that we've created here and it's dangerous. And so that dynamic of rushing to sort of discover this thing and then having to fight your greatest achievement. Yeah. And then the government sort of, there's this whole that thriller aspect's kind of wrong, but the government sort of blacklisting him as like a communist because he was so like trying to fight them on the buy. It's really interesting. I think the story's
imagine the really guilt that a person would have, you know, inventing essentially a weapon that could wipe out, you know, huge chunks of humanity. Like
I imagine that's why they cast Cillian Murphy, because he is incredibly deep. He is incredibly I don't know what the word is. He can emote so much with so little, and so I think being able to bounce between the leader of this team that's, you know, this charismatic leader of this team that has to build this bomb, and then someone who's dealing with that, he's got that range covered.
This is such a strange jump that I'm going to make, but the way you described Oppenheimer, and this is completely just in a condensed version, kind of reminds me of Miles's character from Terminator 2, who creates the ultimate weapon that wipes out, you know, Skynet and goes self-aware or whatever. But what's fascinating about the arc that Gabe was just talking about is like basically he works his whole life career to build this thing, and then literally tries to fight to stop it from being made or continuing. That's actually interesting. I wonder if Miles, I'm not saying Cameron based him on Oppenheimer, but like, was there a shell of that arc is fascinating to me, because when Gabe was describing it just now, the first thing I thought about was Miles Dyson from Terminator 2.
To be fair, you think about Terminator 2 often. So
I do. You know, I relate everything to T2. So like, you know, if you're crying, I'm like, I know now why you cry.
The moment when he's breathing in that weird breathing pattern. Yeah. Dude, that's a scene from my youth that I will never forget. The way that he performed that is so
because indelible. You can feel the bullets. Like he takes, like they spray him with like, it must have been like 7 or 8. He got hit a lot, but the way he breathes in that moment, it's the breath in and out. That it honestly, you're right. It's like one of the most immersive deaths.
Oh my God,
I've ever seen. Like, you know, you feel him dying. It's brutal.
All right, pay attention to my Twitter feeds tomorrow, because I will get a chance to see Top Gun Maverick, and we can react to it immediately afterwards. And then we're gonna be out in San Diego for the junket next week, so we'll have some stories about that. So,
and a hashtag if it happens,
and a hashtag crossed. Yes.
Oh yeah,
keep us in your thoughts.
If it happens. So, thoughts and prayers. All right, this week in movies, there's a film coming out with, I believe, has Liam Neeson in it, called Memory.
Yep.
And Kev wants to let everybody know that the Ozark finale has dropped. So, Kev, take it away.
So as you're watching this, or as you're listening to this, if it's Friday, the last 7 episodes of Ozark have dropped. They broke it up very much similar to Breaking Bad, where the first 7 came out already, and now they're dropping the last 7. So when you log into your Netflix account, you're actually starting with season 4, episode 8, just so you know. I'm at this point in time allowed to talk about the first 6, but not allowed to talk about the finale, which I'm not going to. So all I will say is this: I loved it as a series. I'm a huge fan of this series. I think Bateman did an amazing job. Julia Garner was phenomenal. Laura Linney, everybody is incredible, and it really is gripping and intense and brutal and messed up and just insane, like you would expect an Ozark season to be. But as a fan of this series, has been with it for a while, I'm just very happy to see the direction they went in with everything. I will speak more into detail later, but I think there's an embargo on the finale talk until Monday the 2nd. But you know, I Julia Garner and Laura Linney and Jason Bateman, these are some of the best performances I've seen from actors, and just in general, and like the nuances of Bateman, and he's amazing. It's out.
I want to ask you so many questions, but I don't want to ask you any questions.
And I want to advise people, please stay off Twitter on Friday if you can. This is a show that you deserve to enjoy it without it being spoiled, and there's going to be some idiot on the internet on Friday who's going to wake up at 3 a.m. Thursday night, watch all 7, and just start spoiling it. So just please, if you are invested in this show and you want to have the ride, and it's the ride you deserve and the ride of entertainment, which is fantastic, stay away from social media because someone's going to ruin it. And this is a show that you want to take in on your own. That's all I'll say.
All right, it's going to be on Netflix. Check it out. This week's Blend Game celebrates the talent of Rosario Dawson. We're playing hashtag Rosario Dawson Blend. And Gabe, I'm going to throw it to you because Jake is not here. And he's not here because his voice is shot, but he wrote his pick, and you share his pick. So yes.
Where
did you guys go?
Jake is out sick, and it didn't make sense to have him record a thing sounding sick. So I asked him to send me his pick and to write up a little something that he wanted and that I would read it. And he just so happened to pick what I ended up picking, and for pretty much the same reason. Something I will. So we're gonna kind of give our picks together here. One thing I will preface, and this is my preface, not his. Looking through her filmography, it was hard to kind of find a favorite. I found that. There's a lot of her stuff because she's been acting forever. And there's a lot of her stuff that I haven't seen. But most of everything that I have seen, I like her in. I always enjoy seeing her, but there wasn't much of anything that like stood out of like, that's where I fell in love with her as an actor or that movie in particular, whatever it was. Nothing really stood out as like an obvious choice for me. But what I landed on, because I find it the most exciting, and Jake agrees with me, is her role as Ahsoka in Mando and Boba, and she's now getting her own series. I'll read what Jake wrote. He said her role in Ahsoka, because it's a casting and a performance that the second you see it, you think, yeah, she's the perfect choice, and he and I both can't wait to see more of her. To expand on that a little bit, I do think that's the sort of thing where I'm not a massive fan of the Clone Wars animated series. I like what I've seen. I haven't watched all of that, and I know that has a lot of diehard fans. And I believe some of those fans really wanted to see like the original voice actress maybe showing up. But I think most everyone agreed as soon as she showed up on screen, it was like somehow it just looked exactly like what you thought it should in your head, even though it was this animated character. I think she has the sort of presence that you need to be a Jedi, especially a Jedi of that caliber and that stature that we see her in so late in her sort of, or so many years after the Clone Wars sort of events. And I'm very excited for Obi-Wan, but Ahsoka, as far as Star Wars projects, I think is right up there for me for what I want to see. So Ahsoka, I think she's perfect.
Good choice.
And she's
where'd you
fantastic.
Go? So this is an interesting one for me because like Gabe actually says it exactly how I was trying to explain it to myself, because the films that she's been a part of, I'm you know what, I'm going to cheat on this one, and I'm just going to go ahead and cheat on this one because like I think Rosario Dawson deserves, in my mind, a bigger scope for me because she's been in so many films that I've found amazing. So I'm going to mention a few because I think these parts were incredible. Clerks 2 is a role of hers that I absolutely love. I thought she fit into Kevin Smith's world really well. That was the first Kevin Smith movie that made me cry. And I will always remember her being in that, and like that scene and her drama with Brian's character that leads to Brian and Jeff, Randall and Dante in the prison, which is a phenomenal, or jail, which is a phenomenal scene. And just in terms of emotion, as somebody who's been watching the View Askew universe for so long, I thought she fit in really well with that crowd, and she kind of put the characters in their place when they would do stupid things. I thought she was a really great character in that world. So I have to mention that she's phenomenal in Sin City. I just think that Rodriguez crushed it with that role, with that film, and then everybody stood out. I mean, you have some of the biggest actors in the world in that movie, from Bruce Willis to, you know, Mickey Rourke to Jessica Alba to everybody, Elijah Wood. And I remember Rosario's character so well. I can see her in my mind right now, because she set such a precedent with that character on screen. She was such a badass in that movie. And you know, there's so many things that I could like go to, but those are the two that I thought of the most. I mean, obviously Kids was probably the first time I saw her. And I just think that I don't know. I find her filmography to be just fascinating. And didn't she work with Danny Boyle in Trance, which I thought was a phenonomul perforance? She is like
see what you're both saying though, in that she doesn't have a starring vehicle. You know,
it's kind of like just great roles in great films.
I thought you were going to go with Death Proof, to be honest.
Death Proof was the other one.
Death Proof was the third one that I was trying to remember off the top of my head because she's so great in Death Proof. And I'm telling you, it's it's weird. Rosario almost fits into this strange thing in my mind of like, I just love her in so many films.
Did either of you check out the was it DMZ?
No, I did not.
I'm curious to see that.
I do want to see that as well too.
What's her name? The filmmaker.
Is it Karen Kussman?
Ava DuVernay.
Oh, Ava DuVernay.
Ava DuVernay. Yeah, that the DMZ. Yeah, that was a show on
that looks
HBO Max.
really good.
Yeah,
and that's for her a starring role. She's done a lot of like television stuff.
I went with Clerks 2.
Love Clerks 2
for this reason. With all due respect to Kevin Smith, the Clerks films in particular are his most amateur, because the guys who act in them don't do other things, right? Like they only really do the Clerks movies. And Kevin Smith has the ability to work with the likes of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon and other high profile stars. But when he goes back to the Clerks world, he's leaning on guys who really are just known for Clerks. And it was fascinating to me to see Rosario Dawson, who, again, as you guys are both saying, is such a proven actress and is so good at everything she does, fit into that world. And it was like she was legitimizing Kevin Smith's dialogue, and turning it into, I was like, oh, this is what you can do with Kevin Smith's dialogue when you give it to a tremendous actress. And even, with all due respect to, I don't want to be putting down like Jason Lee, but when Jason Lee did Mallrats, he wasn't Jason Lee yet, he was still just known for skateboarding. And
that's one of my favorite Jason Lee performances. And also, I don't know. See, I disagree with you. I think actors have done great things with Kevin's work, meaning that like even Shannon Doherty in Mallrats is fantastic. But I know what you're saying, because the two leads of Clerks, Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran, they're not the greatest actors of all time. Like they're just, but they're great as Dante and Randall. But no, I know what you're saying, because like Rosario being dropped into that film world as a leading character you're right. It's like this like incredible actor against two actors who aren't like phenomenal, but they're good at what they. Yeah, it's interesting. I know what you mean.
But she's so natural. She made them better. Like the scenes that they share with her are better because she's so good at being. I just believe that she was a Jersey, manager of a fast food joint. I totally bought into the fact that that's her. Right. I wasn't like, this is Rosario Dawson. Like Nicole Kidman could not be dropped into Clerks 2. And be convincing as Dante's love interest, essentially. So I think Rosario Dawson has that incredible ability to really fit in any kind of ensemble that you drop her into and just do incredible work. So I had to go with that. But I was going to go Death Proof too, because I love that one. It's one of my favorite Quentin works. Kimberly Sue and Abby said her role as Claire Temple in the Daredevil series and the Marvel Universe on Netflix. She pops up in all of those films and is a connective thread, all those television series, and is a connective thread. She's great in it. Marcel Freeman went with Spike Lee's He Got Game, whereas Cam McKinney went with Spike Lee's 25th Hour. David, Paul Marsh, and many more said Dope Sick. I'm not familiar with what Dope Sick is.
Dope Sick is it's a newer series on Hulu. Keaton. Michael Keaton stars in it. Okay. And it's about the sort of birth of the opioid epidemic.
Opioid? Gotcha. Yes. Tom Honnell said Sin City. I totally butchered Tom's last name.
Honnell, maybe?
Honnell,
I think so.
Said Sin City. Reverse Goblin says her underrated performance as Wonder Woman in the DC animated universe. And then Robert Azzori, David Cox, and many others went with Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. So thank you everybody for participating.
By the way, you forgot a vowel there.
Roberto. I said Robert. I'm sorry. Yes. Roberto Azzori went with Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. So next week, being the fact that we are all heading into the multiverse of madness, we're going to be playing #Benedict Cumberbatch Blend. Good luck spelling all that out. It's going to take up a lot of your 240 characters.
Hopefully your pick isn't Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, or that'll be your entire tweet. So.
You can, listen, if that's the case, you can email us at realblend@7blend.com.
Very true.
And that's where you can also leave us a review if you would like to, or you can go to Apple Podcasts and drop a review on there. You can give us a rating on Spotify. That helps to grow the show. Our next premium episode is there's an update on the topic. You teased this at the beginning of the show and said it was going to be super exciting and really big, and everyone should tune in and listen to this.
No, I didn't. I said the opposite of that, to be fair. So yeah, the real ones are probably the only ones who are still here. A quick update. We were supposed to do our refresh review of Hook. As you heard, Jake is sick. Sean is still in Vegas, and Kevin had some scheduling stuff pop up. So it's kind of a mess this week, but we're going to make it work. The plan is for Jake and I to handle the premium tomorrow. He is planning on feeling better. That's why we're giving him today to rest up. So I don't have an announcement yet because we're still playing that by ear of what exactly he and I are going to do. But we are going to push off the refresh review at least a week. Although next week is Top Gun, and that's also crazy. So, hashtag if it happens is the lifestyle that we live by. But Monday, new episode. That is the plan.
Awesome. In the meantime, follow us on social media at Jake's Takes, at Kevin McCarthy TV, at Sean_O'Connell, at Gabe Kovac, and the show is at Real Blend. We'll be back next week with 3 of the 4 of us together in person for the very first time, and a hashtag if it happens. And more fun from the Real Blend family. So until then,
hockey pads.
QB.